The observation deck of Station Kronos 7 fell silent as the Predator Queen entered. Her six-limbed form towered over every species present, chitinous armor gleaming under the artificial lights. The Velksani were known across 17 star systems as apex hunters, beings who had never known fear, creatures who consumed entire colonies without hesitation. Elara Quinn stood at the viewport, her hand pressed against the transparent aluminum as she watched the debris field drift past. The wreckage of the transport ship Meridian's Hope glittered like scattered stars, each piece a testament to the ambush that had killed 47 souls. 47 beings she'd promised to protect. She didn't turn when the Queen's claws clicked across the deck plating. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide, to survive. But Elara Quinn had learned long ago that humans didn't always listen to instinct. Sometimes they listened to something far more dangerous. Duty. Human, the Predator Queen's voice resonated through the chamber, a sound like grinding metal and broken glass. You are the one who destroyed 3 of my hunter pods. I am. Elara's voice remained steady, though her heart hammered against her ribs. She finally turned to face the creature that had haunted her nightmares for 6 months. They were attacking a colony ship, unarmed civilians, children. The Queen's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. Around the observation deck, various alien species pressed themselves against the walls. A Thernian diplomat's tentacles quivered. 2 Kelxori merchants had already fled. Even the station's Andromedan security chief had taken 3 steps backward, one hand hovering over his weapon. You speak of children as if they matter, the Queen said, moving closer. Each step was deliberate, calculated. In the void, only strength matters. Your species understands this, surely. You conquered your own world through violence. We did, Elara acknowledged. And then we learned better. The Queen laughed, a sound that made the viewport vibrate. Better. Your kind still wages war. Still. She stopped. Her primary eyes widened, all 6 of them focusing past Elara to something beyond the viewport. The massive predator actually took a step backwards, her hunting posture shifting to something defensive. Elara heard them before she saw them, a chorus of high-pitched mewling, chirps, and what could only be described as determined squeaking. She turned back to the viewport and felt her breath catch. Through the debris field, moving with impossible coordination, came the cubs. The Phylixian young were called many things across the galaxy. Cat cubs, void kittens, stellar strays. Their species had been nearly wiped out by the Velksani hunting fleets 3 standard years ago. Their homeworld reduced to ash. The few survivors scattered across the cosmos, their young left to fend for themselves in the cold vacuum of space. But these cubs weren't alone. They wore tiny pressure suits that Elara recognized. Suits she'd modified and distributed through back channels, through smugglers and sympathetic captains, through anyone who would help. Suits designed specifically for Phylixian young, with extra insulation and nutrient recyclers that could keep them alive for weeks. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Small forms tumbling through zero gravity with the awkward grace of children everywhere. Their oversized eyes visible through transparent helmets, their tiny paws paddling toward the station. Toward her. What is this? The Queen hissed, her voice losing its confidence. Elara watched as the first cub reached the station's external airlock. Its paws pressed against the portal, and even through the layers of metal and plastic, she could hear its cry. Not a cry of fear or pain, a cry of recognition. They remember, Elara said softly. When your fleets destroyed their world, I was there. Part of a human relief convoy. We couldn't save the adults, you made sure of that. But we saved who we could. More cubs arrived, clustering around the airlock. The station's AI began broadcasting proximity warnings, but Elara overrode them with her command codes. She'd earned those codes the hard way, earning the trust of the station's multi-species council through 2 years of service, of protection, of proving that humans kept their promises. You saved them to what purpose? The Queen's voice held something new now. Uncertainty. They are weak, powerless. They cannot even survive in the void without your intervention. No, Elara agreed. She walked toward the internal airlock controls. They can't, not yet, but they will. I could kill you, the queen stated. But she didn't move forward. If anything, she'd taken another step back. I could tear you apart before you reach those controls. Alara's hand hovered over the airlock release. She looked back at the predator queen, and for the first time since the creature had entered, she smiled. You could, she said, but you won't. And why is that, human? Alara gestured to the viewport, where more cubs continued to arrive, where dozens had become hundreds, where hundreds might become thousands. Their tiny forms created a living constellation, a pattern of determination that defied the cold mathematics of survival. Because you're afraid, Alara said simply, not of me, not even of humans, really. You're afraid of what we represent. She pressed the release. The inner airlock doors opened, and the cubs flooded in, their tiny pressure suits automatically regulating as they tumbled into the station's atmosphere. The lead cub, Threx, Alara had named him, though she'd never told him that, was first through. His golden eyes found her immediately, and he launched himself across the deck with a joyful chirp that somehow carried more meaning than any translator could convey. Alara caught him, and suddenly she was surrounded by Phylixian cubs, all mewling and purring and pressing against her, with an affection that made her eyes burn. The predator queen watched, motionless. You don't understand them, she finally said. This attachment, this weakness. Alara looked up from the tumbling mass of cubs, Threx perched on her shoulder, his tiny claws gripping her uniform. Around the observation deck, other species were watching now, not with fear, with something else. You're right, Alara said. You don't understand. Your species hunts. You take. You destroy. You see the galaxy as prey and predator, as strong and weak. She stood, cubs clambering over her shoulders and arms, Threx nuzzling against her cheek. But humans? We learned something you never did. We learned that the strongest thing in the universe isn't the sharpest claw or the biggest gun. It's not even courage or intelligence. The queen's mandibles twitched. Then what? Alara smiled, feeling Threx's purr vibrate against her neck, feeling the weight of all these small lives that had somehow found their way to her across the vast emptiness of space. It's being worth coming back to, she said. It's being someone that others will cross the void to find, someone who keeps their promises even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. She took a step toward the queen, and remarkably, impossibly, the apex predator of 17 star systems took another step back. These cubs crossed in debris field, navigated radiation zones, and risked exposure to the void because they knew I would open that door. Because humans have a reputation now, across the galaxy. We're the ones who show up. We're the ones who remember. We're the ones who save the weak instead of consuming them. The predator queen stared at her for a long moment. Then, without another word, she turned and left the observation deck, her claws clicking a retreat that everyone present would remember. In the aftermath, Alara sank to the deck, surrounded by cubs, with Threx still perched on her shoulder like a tiny guardian. The Thernian diplomat approached cautiously. You shamed a predator queen, he said, his translator unit barely above a whisper. She'll remember this. She'll come back. I know, Alara said, scratching Threx behind his oversized ears. The cub's purr intensified. But by the time she does, these cubs will be grown. And they'll remember too. They'll remember that humans kept their promise. She looked out at the stars, at the vast emptiness that somehow felt a little less empty now. That's the thing about humanity, she said softly. We don't just survive. We make sure others survive too, and that, in the end, is scarier to predators than any weapon we could build. Threx chirped his agreement, and across the observation deck, dozens of cubs joined in, their voices creating a song that echoed through the station, a song of hope, of survival, of a future that apex predators would never